Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan from the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got one of my favorite gold mining companies in Borealis, who's also a sponsor. I've been talking to Kelly about the company since before they became a public company, and I've talked about it as one of the best built private companies that has then transitioned to a public company. And we can highlight some of that, but I'll say hello and thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Thanks so much, Allan. Glad to be here as always.
So do you want to take an overview of why I think it's so well built for success, or get right into the news release of today?
As you wish. I can give the quick high level if you want. Sorry, there's just let me put on Do Not Disturb here, Allan, one moment.
Okay.
Getting a bunch of buzz on the news for today.
Okay.
So Borealis, we put it together as like you mentioned, as a private company, bought a permitted gold mine in Nevada with a historical, although non-compliant resource of about 1.8 million ounces, and fully permitted for heap leaching with all infrastructure in place. We then built a really stellar board after we got the asset, brought in really good shareholders. The biggest of which is Rob McEwen, but also Eric Sprott, a number of great institutions. And we've got on the property itself, outside of the known resources, some real amazing exploration potential that's readily visible from Google Earth. Particularly if you come on the ground, you can say, I'm trying to get you to come to site. Uh, you can see all of the
Well, Kelly, to be honest,
operation
man,
present.
I'm tremendously impressed by the fact that from Google Earth, I can see a 20 square mile alteration zone. And I also see the structures that cut through that alteration. And then I see that the best pit on the project was out in the covered area right beside the alteration. So that whole strip of covered area is equally as prospective as the massive alteration zone that you can see from Google Earth.
And all of today's results are from under that covered area too, Alan, and also just right beside that pit. But what speaking to your point of alteration that you can't see, the rocks that we drilled were bizarrely altered, like completely obliterated to the point where you couldn't tell what the underlying rock type was. So there's a
So that
lot of
alteration
alteration.
continues into the covered area.
Absolutely. There's a paper that was written by two geologists that used to work on the project. I've sent it to you. I should put it up on my website actually. I will do that. But it talks to the overall size of the system and saying it's 7 by 3 miles, so 7 long along our property boundary and 3 wide, basically again covering our property boundary. But it doesn't go into how far into that pediment cover that extent. So it's probably pretty darn big.
And also, I read that paper and I was just blown away. But something else is the structures that cut through the alteration. You can see, if you go on Google Earth, you can also see a series of pits that extend from the alteration zone all the way into the covered area, right beside a structure. And you
Yep.
have parallel structures as well as cross-cutting structures, which, just what you can see, though that paper talks about its similarities to the Yanacocha mine, which is South America's greatest gold mine.
Yep. I agree.
So, Kelly, you touched on a couple of things there. I want to get back to them and then we'll get on to the news. One is that this board of directors you put together is the kind of board of directors that much larger, I mean, mid-tiers would be happy to have a board of directors. I mean, one of them is your chairman, who is Tony McCooch, who turned a mid-tier into a major producer that was bought out for $15 billion dollars. And you have other marquee mining people on the board of directors as well.
Yeah, like Bob Buchan, for example, even though it's a less recent example, built a multi-billion dollar company from essentially consolidating what were previously thought to be lesser assets and putting a bunch of good projects together and building I don't know what it was when he left, 6-8 billion dollar valuation. Um One of the biggest companies in the world at the time in gold production. You got Rich Patricio, who's co-founded Next. You got some really stellar people there, Alan,
Yeah,
across the
he's next gen, the best uranium project on the planet.
without question.
And was helped in making one of the best uranium projects on the planet. So you don't attract those kind of people unless you got a great project, which is, they've done homework for investors. But additionally, you've got Eric Sprott, who's one of the legends in investing in mining companies, made himself billions, getting back to Kirkland Lake, which is what Tony McCooch built. He was that's where a lot of his wealth came from. And Rob McEwen, I was fortunate to have a good relationship with Rob McEwen enough to be able to set up a meeting with you and me and him.
Mhm.
And I was pretty impressed at how quickly he saw the opportunity. And when we told him that Waterton, who doesn't have a great reputation because they blow out stock as soon as they can, that he was wanted within a couple days of our presentation, decided he wanted to take the whole position. And you did your magic with Waterton and were able to get Rob McEwen in with a dominant position and get Waterton out.
Yeah, that was a great move that we got done for sure.
Right. So great people, great project. You've just started publicly trading a couple months ago. You've
Yeah,
already had
August 7th, so little over 3 months now.
three months. You've had gold pours, you've had drilling, and today you came out with drilling results.
We
So
did.
let's get into that's the real nature of
Sure.
this interview.
Yeah, so we've been drilling on and off for quite some time now. We started off with the diamond drill rig. As mentioned, alteration is extreme here, so we ended up switching to an RC rig um, a couple, not around a month and a half ago or so, and it's been going great. So what we put out today is the sulfide focus portion of our drilling that we've done. Really nice, really nice widths, really nice grades, Alan. And we talked about this this morning, sorry, right, right below, right beside the Freedom Flats pit. So the Freedom Flats pit it's the deepest pit on the
Okay,
property.
before we get into that,
Okay,
Kelly,
sorry.
your highlight hole
Yeah.
is a 220 gram meter hole. That's pretty damn exciting. And it's in a sulfide zone that has a lot of great holes. So, the general rule of thumb regarding gram meters is anything over 100 gram meters is puts you in the top percentile of hits that are generally in mines.
Yeah, I agree. There was a rock star hit, 100 meters of 2.25 grams. Within that, 4 gram, little over 4 grams over 20 meters. But that's just the one highlight hole. There was also a number of better than 100 gram meter hits. Um, and the cool thing about this, so we'll talk about the geology if you want, but I just wanted to emphasize why we're so excited about it. So the Freedom Flats pit is that pit you were talking about just undercover. It's the deepest
The
pit, the highest
best pit, the
historic record,
highest grade pit, produced the most gold ounces
all
on
the
this
above.
historical production.
Below that, they've already identified some of the feeders to that system, which are in a sulfide mineralization. And then just beside it, so pit here, we drilled, so pit kind of comes in from topography here and then goes down like that. We drilled just to the side of that pit. in what's known as the Graben area. Um, we're permitted actually to go from the base of that pit, drive a ramp in right to the system and start extracting 55,000 tons out of this material. So it's further afield than us drilling off some of our oxide mineralization, but it's not something that's out of the realm of mining in the coming years. It's something that we're excited about. We're looking at it as looking at development possibilities there and how we would envision a scenario whereby we could extract that mineralization and make money off of it. So yeah, we're really happy with what came out of the ground. We're going to be going back there in the winter at some point in 2025. Right now we're focused on oxide, so we've got our drill spinning targeting some near surface oxide mineralization.
Before we get into the
Yes,
oxides, I it's not lost on me, and I think that this is a really important part of the story, is that you've got that Freedom Flats pit, and the oxide is immediately beside it. So you can go in from the oxide or the bottom of the pit and ramp into the sulfide zone. And that puts the sulfide zone in a pretty unique position because a lot of sulfide zones you gotta build everything to get down to it. Here,
yep.
you basically tap into it from the bottom of the Freedom Flats pit.
I forgot to pull this up, but let me this is quite
So
interesting.
basically, folks, what I'm getting at is, when you look at a sulfide deposit and you look at it from an economic perspective, you have to factor in all of these issues as to the capex to get to it. Here, you are basically at it and you ramp into it. And that brings your capex or your capex down to as minimal as you're ever going to find, like basically next to nothing. And that makes that oxide zone pretty special to
Here,
me.
Alan, I just want to pull this up just while I have you on, we're talking about it. This is from an older kind of presentation we were looking at, but it just shows what that could look like.
Ah,
You can see
beautiful.
this here. So
So in
there's just
orange
a
there is
schematic done
your,
by
sorry,
orange are blobs from a historical resource. Don't consider them current because they're non-compliant, but they're
okay.
reasonably representative of kind of the more clustered gold present. So here's the Freedom Flats pit. There's surface, of course. There's some additional sulfide, and again, take this with a grain of salt, but it is based on empirical data. What we're permitted to do is
Okay, not all empirical data is created equal. How
no,
many holes went into that? Is that just, that's not a lot of arm waving. There's some holes into that that
there's lots of
gives,
holes into it. Yes,
yeah. Okay.
there's well over 70 holes into this thing.
Okay. There you
It's pretty empirical.
go.
Anyways, this is just the hypothetical, Alan, but it's for fun to show you visually what I'm talking about. So our pits here, you would drive a ramp from the wall inside of that pit. So you put a head frame in the wall. So you're not even you cut out all this vertical distance. You're not even making any more surface disturbance. And then you just drift on over, spiral on down, and exploit as you wish within that area. So that's what we're this is a schematic again. It's just something our engineers whipped up, but it shows you how readily accessed this can be.
And it's you are permitted to do a 55,000 ton bulk sample.
That's correct.
And I come from the diamond exploration business, Kelly, and those little buggers are very small and very rare, even in a high grade diamond mine.
Mhm.
And so to really understand the grade and the frequency of those diamonds, you have to do big bulk samples
Yeah.
to get representative grade. In this case, it's like you can use a bigger truth machine, 55,000 ton truth machine
Which
to,
is a big bulk sample in and of itself, to be honest with you.
Exactly. And get a representative grade and important metallurgical information.
Yeah, so that's the most important thing that we would test. Obviously, we'd want to make some money while we're doing it, or at least attempt to. But really understanding on a large, like everyone looks at these little individual metallurgical results as conclusive. In reality, one single sample that you get, it's 5 kilograms, you crush it up, it goes through a laboratory setting, is not truly representative of genuine recoveries. The Borealis heap leaching operation, for example, if we look at it throughout history, in good oxide mineralization does about 75% on average recovery.
Okay.
Look at some individual samples from some of the met work that was done in the past, and this is no critique upon um, any of the individuals doing the work. It's just how nature works. Sometimes you'll get up to like 93% recovery in a laboratory setting. Sometimes it goes down to 65, but you really just need that mass of material running through a mill to truly understand um, what you're going to get, what your true grade is as well, which is also a really important thing. Especially because in grabbing, what we realized was that there's a lot of vertical ore shoots that come up through the system. So there's some like multi-ounce hits over smaller widths in some of the historical drilling that we were trying to understand a bit. And it looks like they're coming up in these narrow feeder systems throughout this large body of mineralization that we drilled off in today's news release.
So there you go, folks. What Kelly's describing there is that you could put a hole down, and because of these chutes, you could miss the chute and report a grade that's not representative of if you grabbed all of that material and
Or vice
sent
versa,
it.
Allan, and drill right down the heart of one and get 40 grams. Not that I would complain, but 40 grams over a large width.
Yeah,
Um, when in reality, your grade is
different.
somewhere in the middle there.
Right. And so, I don't know if that excites people as much as me, but being able to do a 55,000 ton sample that gets you a representative idea of what the actual grade is that, encompasses a larger volume of rock than a drill core this big, plus the metallurgical data, especially when you could quickly bring it into production. That's pretty exciting stuff, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you know what? We had chatted about this, but I think I'll show you. Let me pull this up. So these are the results that we put the release together with. And they're really large, consistent intervals. So what do we have here? Everything in orange is better than a gram. Everything in yellow is better than half a gram. Red is better than 5 or so. But what's really neat is even when doing these composites, let's look at one of these holes up here. I think it was 6. Um,
Wow, just look at that
we had,
continuity.
what was that? 1.14 over 56. But there's so much more gold outside of the intervals that were reported today. Like you could easily almost double that intercept by adding
Oh,
in some of this
wow.
material. Um, looking at some of the other holes here, this is 0.6 over thing, but there's tons of gold that just didn't necessarily make it into the results today, just because we optimized for grade for the most part. Yeah, it's a pretty cool system. But the nice thing to see here is how consistent mineralization is. So when you're looking at potentially processing this in the future, you have the ability potentially. So we've got internally, as you know, we've got a full engineering team, a full resource or geology team, including Ian, who's a resource geologist. So we can look at things internally that of course are non-compliant and wouldn't certainly pass the full
NI 43101 reporting standards.
even that, but even just like on a it's more like scoping studies that we're doing, internal
Okay.
scoping. So we're doing some engineering, back of the envelope stuff, but better than back of the envelope. looking at different ways that you could potentially extract this ore. And there's a few ways. Number one is
And by the way, folks, the guy doing that work cut his teeth at
Detour Lake,
Detour Lake mine, which
yeah,
is one of Canada's greatest mines. And then he also went to work on the Cote Lake mine, which is another fantastic mine. So this isn't just some guy, you know, throwing numbers around. He knows
mhm,
what he's doing, folks.
I agree. And what we've looked at is a few different ways. So when this was modeled in the 2011 pre-feasibility study, as and part of that 1.8 million ounce historical resource, they envisioned essentially a large open pit, extracting the material below. It's about 130 meters of overburden, so that's quite a lot. We'd have to really, in my opinion, find a lot, extend the strike and extend the extents quite a bit to warrant making that large of a hole in the ground.
Because you're
Um,
losing money the whole way until you hit the ore body or
yeah,
deposit.
you
Sorry, I
lose
got it.
the CN Tower is what, 500 meters?
Yeah.
You're It's a fifth of the CN Tower that you've got to extract from the
That's
earth
to get to the sulfides, right?
before you start getting paid.
Okay.
Exactly. So in my eyes and our team's eyes, you'd look at it more of like a bulk underground type project. And you can look at it as a very bulk project like we just looked at, where all infrastructure is there already. Your power's there, electricity's there, blah, blah, blah. You're right at in that pit, ramp in and start moving big volumes of rock out. Or you can look at it conventionally in small scale, high grade mine. And once we actually get an updated resource there, we start doing some real work to fully quantify and understand the graben deposit. We'll be in a better position to determine how that looks. But it's really neat that we're right beside that pit. We have so many different options to evaluate this material.
You know, Kelly, when I first was doing my homework on this months before you became public, you did send me those scientific papers.
Yep.
And what immediately stood out to me was the comparisons to Yanacocha. Now, every junior mining company on the planet has an analogy of why their project could be as big as some other elephant.
Mhm.
And I don't take I do my own scientific work, and one of those is using Google Earth. So I went down and I looked at Yanacocha from Google Earth, and I saw that uh, massive alteration zone with a bunch of pits inside of it.
Yep.
And then I did I measured that and I put it onto the alteration only in what you could see at Borealis Mining's project, and it fits in there. And so you've got hallmarks that tick off the boxes of why this looks like a Yanacocha. Then that's not even considering what's outside the alteration zone that I can see. Plus, Yanacocha was a series of open pits that mined the oxides, and now it's transitioning into moving towards mining the sulfides. So here you go again is another example of this similarity to Yanacocha. Now, of course, it takes a lot of work, folks, to prove out that you have a Yanacocha lookalike, or
Yep.
even a fraction of a Yanacocha lookalike. But if you start with that theory and then you look at all the data and even the new data now, it's all sort of taking the theory, if you will.
Yeah, I have just found another paper. Not the one I'll send this to you afterwards, but it's written by the same folks. I'll send it afterwards. I'll put all this stuff up on our website, I think. But it was written by some consulting geologists for the previous company, Griffin Gold Corp, that owned this project. Um, After they had gone on a site visit of the Yanacocha district. So So major similarities, presence, pretty simple ones, presence within major mineral belts along cross trends, late tertiary volcanics, um, similar volcanostratigraphic sections, so similar
Layers to the
geological
cake,
framework.
Kelly.
Exactly. Associated breccias and intrusive along with it. Very, very large hydrothermal areas that aren't always necessarily mineralized. Similar alteration types and styles, high sulfidation systems, similar controls on mineralization, um, and large aeromagnetic lows that correlate roughly with the various gold deposits. So, anyways, there are some distinct similarity to that district. Uh, and that's a wonderful one to compare ourselves to. Although I'm not necessarily comparing it. It's the previous geologist that worked the asset. We've got to find some more gold before we get up in the Yanacocha level, but
Of
we've certainly
course,
got
but
the heart to do so.
along the way, you want to pass milestones,
Yeah.
and the milestones with the truth machine, it's not falling apart. You want it to
No,
keep
no.
moving in that direction, if you will.
I'll show you just this one for fun. So this just shows schematic cross sections of and again, this is not my work. This is done by these gentlemen here. If you can see that at the top. From 2006, post site visit they went on. And these are the ones that published the paper, Allan, that I sent you. So this is what I found quite neat. Well, this is too nerdy for the crowd here, but silica alteration in red, um, advanced clay alteration, argillic, and then we have another chloritic alteration
So
over
this is a
top.
plan view, right, Kelly? So we're looking down on it.
A plan view, yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, silica, argillic, and advanced argillic, and then propylitic. So we differ in the red or in our green to their yellow, but we still have a very similar sequence. When we look at the actual deposit models or deposit sections, you get a very, very similar zonation of gold
Mineralization.
within that altered sequence.
Yeah.
So this is very, very typical with a clay alteration surrounding the margins of the system, tight compact silica, which or opal essentially covering the top of the body, and then vuggy quartz within the main body of the system. And then over here again, pervasive silicification, the sponge rock, which is that vuggy stuff, opal up top, that big clay alteration. So um, very similar alteration schemes in both of these systems.
And what's going down there below it is your feeder to
Exactly. And
the
they even call it primary conduit. So
okay.
primary conduit, primary feeder. These would be secondary feeders. And we have the same in this cross section at least.
And
In this,
so far, that's the second part of Yanacocha is to go underneath and get to the feeders.
yeah, 100%. That's where the high, like there's great grades, don't get me wrong, in oxides surface, but where you want to get those very, very high grades, it's within those pipes and those chimneys. And that's the same as many epithermal deposits as well. You're down in Mexico, that's where you find the juices within those epithermal veins, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so
The juice that is tremendously profitable to mine. Look at Silvercrest.
yep,
They're about to be taken over by Coeur, and they're just a cash machine. They produce silver, equivalent silver at I think $13, $14 an ounce. They're selling it for 25 bucks. They started out a few quarters ago with $100 million in debt to bring it into production. They paid off all that debt, bought back stock, and now are sitting on $158 million in cash.
that is honestly surprising they're selling, but yeah, that's an amazing, amazing asset. So epithermal deposits can deliver wonderful prizes to people.
Yeah. And that's just one of many in Mexico. And Mexico's not very far from the same kind of rocks go all the way through Nevada as well,
Yep.
you know. Speaking of which, I think we've dealt with the news and how you got to where you are. Um,
Well,
Nevada.
let's talk about. We actually didn't talk about any of the numbers. So one second, let me just.
Okay,
I've
sorry.
got them here, Alan. Let's pull them up quickly.
Well, I think I did mention a
We mentioned
220
the best
gram
one.
meter hole.
But so there's the highlight here that we put in. There's your 200 plus gram, 2.25 over 99 meters, including 4 over 21. Also in this other hole 13, 2.1 over 36, which includes some nice high grade. And further down hole 2 grams over 27, and then 1.6 over 45. But further down in the release, outside of the highlights, which not everyone will go to, there's also some wonderful hits. So these are the ones that we just looked at, down to 45 of 1.8,
Yeah.
also 56 of 1.15, 92 of zero point 0.6, even 23 of 1.9. They're all quite attractive on certainly on a metal factor basis, better than 55 for the majority of our holes announced. And when
And
you look
this
at
is
what
inside, go back down to that next slide. This
yep,
is inside of a zone that the historical drilling also has gram metal factor numbers that are off the charts.
huge. Yeah, there's well, in the vicinity of this hole here, 4.5 over 115, 3 over 56, 2 over 60. There's some really great historical numbers here, and I think we've added to them. What we've
Okay.
also done is expanded. It's kind of hard to show in 3 dimensions because this is a flat, horizontal, kind of tabular body, but expanded the deposits outwards and opened up some of the areas and would have grown some of the blocks of gold mineralization here.
And when I
And
look at this drill hole array, I
yep.
see that to the right side, the drill
There's
holes stop.
Yeah,
There's a
there's
gap
it's
zone.
wide open there to the north.
There's a gap zone in there as well.
Hmm.
And this is sort of where those fluids that carry the gold hit permeable rock and then spread out. But there's
Yes,
still wide open feeder system potential
exactly.
that
Which
is
is not identified here. I agree.
zero.
No.
Because to hit the feeder zone, you see, folks, all those holes are vertical, right? To hit a vertical feeder zone, you're not, the chances you're going to hit it are absolutely minimal. To
Yep.
hit it, you got to hit it with an angled hole. So as you can see, the potential for the feeder systems is totally undrilled.
Yep. And then just also for context, here is our open pit, the Freedom Flats pit.
Yeah,
Actually, quick look at the site. There's our ADR facility. Our office is just right down over here. Um, one of the other pits, East Ridge, further off the screen, Northeast Ridge. That series of pits that we see when we look at it together is
yeah.
kind of in that orientation. There's a buried pit over here as well. It's covered in waste rock. And then we drilled just adjacent to this body here. So when we were looking at envisioning a ramp, you would do something like pop it in this wall over here and drift over and then exploit the mineralization just like that. So it should be an easy exercise if we go down that route or that route. Um,
And there's a lot of bulk sample or bulk mining underground deposits that are fantastic. And so, I guess you could look at stripping off 200 meters of overburden to get to the sulfides, but when you've got a pit right there that you can just cut into,
it
and
seems a
then
lot
start,
easier. I would agree with you. And it's not 200 meters, it's about 130 to 140
oh,
or
sorry,
but still, it's a lot of dirt to move.
right.
And when you just think about putting a nice big portal and going to bulk mine, and it seems to make a lot more sense.
You throw things out there, Kelly, and I don't think people appreciate it, but I certainly do. You talk about a big portal. When you That's not just a throwaway thing, folks. What that means is you can go in there with big machinery, not small machinery to get to and mine the deposit. You can go in there with big machines. And that's pretty important stuff when you're looking at underground mining. And also, you don't have to those underground machines, they don't have to travel a long distance to get to the deposit and then bring it out of there to have it mined. This all adds up to what it would look like in a mining scenario and cheap costs to bring it into production.
Yep, I agree. So that, yeah, sorry, I'll pull this off now. But that was a really quick rundown on the news release. But yeah, we're really happy with the numbers coming out of the ground. Right now we're focused on oxide mineralization.
Yep.
We hope to get something to market before year end for sure on that drilling, which is looking quite promising. And yeah, that's what we're up to with the drill bit right now.
So I think we've dug deeper into the news like you and I always have liked to do. Kelly, we're
Yeah.
geeking out on the rocks. But from a big picture perspective, this is in Nevada. Nevada is one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world. And from a general sense, it looks like you've got a asset that could be a foundational asset to grow the company to be a bigger company in the
I
best jurisdiction in the world for gold mining.
Yeah, and we've been open about our M&A strategy as well. I'm sure that's what you're leaning towards. Um, so we do want to resume mining at Borealis. We think that there's lots of value left in the ground there that we'd like to exploit and extract. The infrastructure, I think, is super valuable as well. And I've said our strategy is looking for assets that are smaller that aren't necessarily capturing the attention of majors or even mid tiers for that matter, but have really robust economics. The vision is to pick up a few of those projects at each of the sites, build a really simple heap leach pad, single set of carbon columns, and a pond. Run that via diesel generator, so very low cost, very low capex, and circulate the cyanide onto the leach pad at each of those sites, filter all that gold out in carbon in the carbon columns. Once the carbon gets full of gold, ship that carbon to Borealis for processing. And that's what we hope to do. And we hope to start executing on that in the near term on that plan.
So basically, what you're doing is you're creating a super high grade concentrate that
Exactly.
then gets moved over to where you can pull the gold out of the super high grade concentrate.
It'd be the same as running like a gravity mill at some plant and then shipping the gravity feed if you're talking about a high grade underground gold mine type thing. So yeah, that's the plan, and no one's really doing that right now. There's a lot of companies that have set out to do that. Fiore Gold comes to mind, which was bought out by Caliber in
Leah
2020.
was I can't remember.
That was Frank Juster's company. They had the Pan
Yes.
Gold Mine, and that was their hope, was to do this roll up in Nevada, but their asset just got away from them, and they sold it too quickly. So, but there's a number of groups that have wanted to execute upon this because there are like when I go talk to the investment bankers, they're like, "Here's your shopping list, Kelly," and it's like 30 pages long, and we'll go through and pick up different look at different projects held in the hands of private individuals, major producers, mid-tier producers, and of course, private junior companies that are struggling in the market for one reason or another. Um, yeah, and are looking to potentially exit. There's a lot of really great assets out there that teams have done really great work on, but just can't take it to the finish line for whatever reason.
Well, that business plan is also what got me really excited because it's kind of a twofold business plan. One, you've got the foundational asset at Borealis, and then outside of Borealis, there's plenty of opportunities of these projects that are too small for the majors, and so they're available. And this gets to a point that I've made for years now, Kelly, is during the 2001 to 2011 gold bull market, the majors came in and basically bought all the mid tiers, all the developers, all even a lot of great juniors, explorers. But what they did is they created a vacuum. And so there's these opportunities out there because the majors are so big now to move the needle for them is quite, it's almost not possible in a lot of instances. But there's company building assets out there that could make companies mid tiers. And it's almost like a company that wants to move into that area has
Yep.
carte blanche.
I agree with you. And
So
we're trying to do it right now. So we're working on a lot of different things. Got a corporate development person working on modeling different assets, and we're not looking really for, actually we're not looking at all at the moment for early stage stuff. We're not looking to have to go make discoveries. We're looking for things that have immediate near-term value, of course, with exploration upside. That's one of the key criteria of the assets that we look for. But we want something with robust economics out the gate to just simplify that whole process and be able to immediately quantify and put some numbers to paper and in as quick a manner as possible start exploiting that mineralization.
So in a nutshell, you don't you want to build a real mining company here, and I don't see that enough in the junior
We
space.
want to build a real business here. Yes, mining company. We want to be extracting materials out of the ground and selling them for a profit. That's what we're hoping to do. And as we grow, make that profit margin grow, not necessarily the ounce production grow, but the profit margins and the profit numbers. I think that's the driving force
I
behind
think
it.
they kind of go hand in foot, glove there, Kelly.
They do, but sometimes you can go and just you end up going for revenues over profit. That's a common mistake that a
Yes.
lot of companies make. Although
So
if you
you
look at,
want to grow to be bigger and better, not bigger
yes,
for the sake of being bigger, which
exactly.
is
We're
a
not Amazon. We don't need we're not going to get. We want to actually make money and not just have big revenues.
actually, Kelly, that's not just that's a mining company issue as well. There's a lot of companies that grow to be bigger for the sake of being bigger, not for
Lots.
the sake of being better. You look at the majors out there, Agnico Eagle and Alamos Gold have always built to be better. And when
Yep.
you look at the numbers at the other side of things, they're better. And it's
Yep.
better to be better, not bigger for the sake of being bigger.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was like the 2010 to 2014 M&A
Watch.
crash that happened where everyone just bought up anything to make those ounce numbers grow. Gold dropped, and all of a sudden they had a bunch of assets that were
Still
not great.
sitting in the warehouse.
Yes.
Probably will.
Or still trying to sell. Yes, one or the other.
There you go. There you go. Well, Kelly, as always, it's a great talking to you. I love talking about rocks with you, Kelly. And did you have a closing comment?
Thank you so very much.
Ah, do your homework, folks. Speak with your financial advisors. Bear in mind that I am highly biased because Borealis is a sponsor of my work. This benefits them. It also benefits my audience because it makes it possible for me to do my reports. But there is one thing that companies do not pay me for, which is my opinion. My opinion is based on 30 years of exploration experience, having been mentored by people like Genna McDowell, who was the world exploration manager for Anglo Gold, Bob Barnett, who did all the mineral chemistry analysis for the fantastic diamond mine that is Diavik before and after production. Bob Darney, who was I'll tell you later about my Bob Darney trend. Basically, it is that as projects, all projects start out big and usually end up getting smaller as you throw the truth machine and science at them. Whereas mines are different, they get better and better the more science and drilling you apply to them. That's what I base my decisions, my analysis and opinions on whether a company is a sponsor or a pick. So, but be aware of my highly biasedness and do that homework. And I think you'll find a lot of great things when you do it, when you look at Borealis. On that note, have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.